Hello, Zuko here.
You got me with that one.
Right? Of all the ways to introduce yourself when you've been like, attacking these people and like trying to like, get them and stuff, and you just like show up and be like, hello, Zuko here.
Yeah.
But I guess you already know me. Anyway.
So yeah, here we
Avatar,
are.
Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
It's being made into a live-action Netflix adaptation.
It is indeed.
We already knew that for a while, but now we know
that.
Yeah.
So
Mike and Brian.
Yeah, I was already apprehensive enough, before that news, because that was sort of the saving grace of it. It's like, hey, this is happening, but it's gonna be fine. Trust us. Trust us. It's gonna be fine.
Mike and Brian will be there.
Mike and Brian will be there.
They were wrong.
Turns out they're not. So, yeah,
they weren't.
So now, granted, there were a lot of writers on the original series.
To be fair, this is one of the things that I think a lot of people forget about the original series of Avatar: The Last Airbender is that Mike and Brian wrote a very small percentage of it. The main thing that they were the director, showrunners, and kind of the lead artist kind of animation kind of people, making sure that it looked like the vision that they had initially. So we're going to be getting into here a very unfortunate topic. Yeah. But in some ways it could be kind of fun in that there is a little bit of time before we see what the Netflix live action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender will be like. So we're going to talk with you guys about a list of things that we came up with as ones that would be would be nice to have that are, we're all, like, Jacob and I are already kind of in disagreement on.
Yeah, like, there are some things on here that are just strictly contrary.
Yeah.
Like,
because this is the thing, guys. When this comes out, let's just accept it right now. There's going to be parts of it that we won't like.
And it certainly will never be able to live up to all the nostalgia and wonderfulness that the original series had. Like, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah. So, yeah. Let's get into this. Before we do, though, we have to give a shout out to one of our recent VIP patrons, Duangs.
Duangs.
What a beautiful Duangs.
Just indeed. Like a picnic.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Chew. Yes. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot, dude. And yeah. All right, so let's get this right off the gate here. Jacob and I disagree really quickly on one thing, and that is that you are primarily in the vanilla adaptation camp.
Yep.
And I am in the creative liberties camp.
I have been burned way too much with the subversion of expectations recently in media in order to want that. I want a vanilla adaptation. Vanilla is a good flavor. It's a really good flavor. Please, for the love of God, just give us vanilla. Like, that's a success. That is a really solid success.
I'm with you. And I'm going to put it out here that I think what we're going to get is Moose Tracks, which has vanilla as a base.
With some chocolate and peanut butter.
A lot of chocolate and peanut butter and just a bunch of random shit thrown in there.
And that can still... I can see how that can still kind of work, but I still want it to hold to the idea of vanilla.
But that's where you're going to hear a lot of the things of what we're saying to be rather different here, is that when you think about a live action adaptation for a show that really has a few core things that you can't do well in live action. You just can't do it that well. And I'm not talking about story things. I'm not talking about actual like story things. I'm talking about one of the toughest things that we just kind of take for granted in Avatar: The Last Airbender is that it's got some amazing animation.
Yes.
That people can't make those movements naturally.
Well, people can't make those movements. A lot of the comedy is based on the whole animation style thing with the faces and stuff, which just doesn't translate.
Right. Which means we're going to have to say, in my opinion, a little bit of a goodbye to that.
Yeah.
That's something that's just not going to be easy to translate.
And that can be a positive or it can be a negative, right? We're going to guarantee have the negative of the fact that we can't just get a second series of the original, right?
Yep.
So ideally, what I would hope is that we can get some added bonuses that we otherwise wouldn't get because it's a different series, right?
Right.
More of that kind of like interactions between the characters, a different new kind of comedy maybe, you know, that they figure out in their own way.
Yeah. So going through these one off at a time here, the main one that I think we both very much wanted to have and we agreed on for the most part, and it just kind of came out through this. And this is the one that all of us wanted, although it's a little bit vague. It's just, even though we're probably not going to get Mike and Brian back into this whole thing, and short of actually just bringing them back, keep the focus on the emotional and spiritual journeys of these kids.
Yes.
We don't need to have dramatic political intrigue regarding the Fire Nation's inner council or some kind of Game of Thrones nonsense, where suddenly all those adults become characters with motivations and, you know, extra like emphasis of like, yes, we must shut down Zuko. And like, imagine if there's this whole extra plot where they're like trying to get rid of Zuko so they can usher in Azula as their picked candidate.
Zhao is enough for that, right? Like, because, okay, Avatar: The Last Airbender, it aired on Nickelodeon.
Yes.
A lot of the people, when they watched it, were very young. A lot of them weren't.
Yes, that's
true.
And
that was what made it so special. One of the things that made it so special is that all age groups could appreciate it, right?
Yep.
So you don't need to try and like age it up a bunch with the audience that's now older. No. They still love it just fine. And just... Yeah, so...
Even though they probably are going to do it a little bit.
They're probably going to do that a little bit. And a little bit I can get behind, right? Because having a 12-year-old protagonist, you know...
Pining after, you know, 14-year-old...
It's like 13 and 15 by the time it shows up. But
I'll just say that for those of you that were in the fandom at the time, it was awkward then as well.
Right. Yeah.
And let's just be real about that.
Yep.
A lot of people chose Zutara
because it
was awkward between Aang and Katara.
Yeah.
So short of actually just bringing Bryke back with like, please, we beg you, please come back, which we hope could happen.
But to be fair, even if they did do that, that might not be enough, and that's why we were apprehensive even when they thought they were going to be a part of it. So, Yeah.
So, keep the focus on the kids' stories. Yes, Hakoda is a character. Ozai is a character. Iroh, the best character in the show other than Zuko.
If I absolutely love Iroh, that's just going to break my heart.
Yeah. So... let's keep the focus on them. They're the main characters. I don't need to have even Iroh to get a deep, you know, crazy backstory thing, even though we would really want one. If it's to sacrifice the main character's focus, then... let's make sure that the main characters are these kids. Zuko, Aang, Katara, Sokka, Toph.
Right, because even with Iroh,
the other kids.
Even with Iroh, it's not Iroh on his own. It's Iroh and Zuko together. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right? So let's have those character interactions. Like, let's really double down on making these characters feel like people. And if they are still like childish and like goofy and stuff, then that can just contrast with all the crazy Fire Nation stuff that will be even scarier with the live action medium. Like,
right. So let's bring up the next point here, the one that you really wanted to make sure was dramatically emphasized. And I want you to really like get your argument in here with this, because I think this is a really good point, and that is vanilla.
Yeah. So vanilla, a lot of times I feel like vanilla gets forgotten because it's just good, and then it doesn't do anything crazy, and people can kind of forget about it. But like one of my other favorite adaptations that worked really well, I feel like, was the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That movie that came out. That was very vanilla. There wasn't much changed about that, to the point that some people thought it was like a bad thing, right?
But I think it had quite a bit changed. But
after The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
That's just comparisons based on the other Narnia movies.
But having something where we can still get that same spirit of the show, it's not trying to do any crazy twists. We love these characters. This show came out 15 years ago, right? You don't need to do something different just make it fresh and help people relive that experience.
Right. So this is why I disagree in the whole thing, is that you want it fresh. But how do you make it fresh while keeping it vanilla?
The reason why I think you can do that with this show is because Avatar: The Last Airbender as a show was episodic in formula. It did that really well, and there were a bunch of episodes that were absolutely amazing. Things like, The Storm and the Blue Spirit and Blind Bandit and Zuko
are
alone.
Actually pretty tied to the main plot, though.
Right. But there are a bunch of episodes that weren't really tied to the main plot.
But those are usually the least liked episodes.
Exactly. And that's why I think that the best way to do this would be to keep the episodes that are like the best episodes, the core episodes that you need for the fundamental characterization and plot progression. But then for all the other ones, just redo them. We don't need to see the fortune teller again. It's like, I love the fortune teller as an episode, it's certainly a lot more than Great Divide. But that isn't something that we need just another carbon copy of. Have it be something else and use the live action and everything to make it imaginative and all sorts of things like that. That'd be great. And then if we get additional moments of character interactions and banter and things like that we like, awesome. And then we can actually, by doing that, hopefully, because the original show, by doing that, it would have these little bits of character interactions and things throughout the episodes that made it so that we really cared about these characters and we got to know them and they felt like people. Because this is a remake, right? We can't just do the same episodes because they won't hit the same exactly. So these characters, even though they're the same characters, they'll still be their own flavor and style of character, right? Different than the animated series. Right. So if you have original sort of filler side episodes, right? Then you can generate a unique connection to these characters in live action that you didn't have in the animated series.
Gotcha. So what I heard is that you actually want moose tracks.
Yes, but only but in specific regulated places where it really doesn't matter.
Right. So what you also are more saying is you'd like vanilla plot adaptation.
Right.
Is you don't want to lose the storm. But if Avatar Day doesn't happen, you're not going to really be upset.
I'm not going to be upset. And
okay, so then this is where I agree with you. I think that one of the best things about Avatar: The Last Airbender is the progression of the characters' individual stories along with the main overarching story.
Right.
One of the things that I didn't like as much as I did the other stuff with regards to Avatar: The Last Airbender was when they would suddenly go, this village side episode here is main plot material. But how did we get here? Well, we're going north.
Zuko's chasing us.
Zuko's chasing us.
Yeah.
I personally, I'm going to not jump ahead entirely to my point that's kind of contradictory to this, but I would like the moose tracks part. If you have vanilla as the base, I'm all right with that. But having basically there be a legitimate, this is a thing about modern television nowadays, it's gotten a lot better in terms of storytelling, is that the episodes flow from one to the other linearly. There is an actual narrative tissue that connects them beyond just the we're going north today, what's next. I think that nostalgia glasses is not allowing a lot of us to see the potential for a more I'm not talking about streamlined in terms of shortened. I'm talking about streamlined in terms of kind of it'll lose a little bit of the quirkiness, but pacing wise, no, listen. It will gain a lot of the things that makes the characters so strong.
Okay.
I think that a lot of people think book one is the weakest of the books.
Sure.
And here's the reason why. It has the most episodic and disjointed of the stories.
Okay,
A lot of the actual flow of book one does not fit from episode to episode. Tell me how Bato of the Water Tribe episode starts. You can't, because you don't remember. Nothing about the previous episode flows into Bato of the Water Tribe.
Okay, that is true.
Then you have the episode that, in my opinion, has one of the most potentially dark storylines, and that is the Northern Air Temple.
Oh, okay.
The Northern Air Temple gets Nickelodeoned to the max in that it's a bunch of kids defending
with
slime bombs when it's really turning kids into child soldiers protecting this area from the Fire Nation because the adult in there screwed up and got basically a little greedy.
Okay,
and made a mistake, and then the kids have to cover up for the mess there. The Northern Air Temple episodes leads into one of the biggest plot developments for the Fire Nation later in the show. That's
true.
Teased, but that does not affect the immediate plot. But imagine if every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender ended with a little development in just the goings-on of the main character's decisions that led into the next episode. Like, smoothly.
Okay.
Smoothly.
All right.
I think we wouldn't miss a beat of the main plot points.
All right.
But we would cut out really fluffy stuff in terms of the overall plot that is kind of more just world building.
But I like the fluff. I want
with
new
you,
fluff.
But then put the fluff in those moments where you're, needing to break up a little bit of this pacing that's maybe gotten a little bit faster.
Okay.
There's episodes entirely where Iroh and Zuko don't really do anything. Think about the waterbending scroll episode.
Hey.
Iroh is looking for his Pai Sho piece.
No, that's very important stuff.
No, I'm with you. I'm
not talking about plot stuff. I'm
with you.
Even amongst the characters.
But does that have to be surrounded by a waterbending scroll episode?
No.
Could Katara have had that characterization done in a different part of the show? And had it still communicate how she's jealous about the way that he's getting his bending skills so quickly, if not for the fact that it has to be a 23-minute story compacted Nickelodeon kind of thing?
Okay, yeah, I get that. I get that, right? I would be sad to see the pirates go, but yeah, I get that, right? Like, but...
So that's where I think that the vanilla adaptation is amazing for things like the Blue Spirit arc.
Sure.
Because if Zuko doesn't have the Blue Spirit arc, just in general, this is something even freaking Shyamalan understood.
Right.
If he was
kind of important.
If he was going to have book 2, he knew that he needed the Blue Spirit dynamic.
Even
because it's thematically
really
appropriate to what's going on with Zuko.
Right.
There's a lot of characterization that would be missed, especially once we got to the Lake Laogai episode.
Yeah. Well, yes.
So that kind of stuff being established and vanilla handled, I'm with you. But basically all the connective tissue between the episodes, I feel like you could add 5 minutes in between every episode and bridge the whole book together in a much more streamlined way.
That is another good point, though. Since a lot of these episodes were, the movie, I hate to bring it up, but the movie exists, right? Yep. The movie tried to take a bunch of 22-minute episodes or 24-minute episodes and put them into a movie. It didn't work. There were a bunch of other reasons why it didn't work.
Yeah.
But you could see where doing that, just a montage where you have them go to Kyoshi for a little bit or whatever. Or no, they didn't even go to Kyoshi. A montage where you have 6 earthbenders dancing and a rock floats by. That has its own problems. But so if we're going into live action where it's going to be like a 45-minute episode, then it would make sense that the stories would need to be at the very least adjusted or have more stuff put into them if you were doing a 1 episode to 1 episode, which they definitely don't need to do.
Right, which is something I actually wanted to bring up, guys. If we take Netflix's general rule of how it handles live action shows with regards to how it does its structure, it's going to have the episodes be around Stranger Things length, which means around 50 minutes to an hour.
And then like 8 or 10
have
per season.
8 to 10 of them.
Yeah.
Which is the exact amount of time a book of Avatar was.
Right. But because they'll be broken up into episodes, it'll either probably follow a
2
linear
to 3
structure
episodes per thing there.
Well, right, but even though the time carries over, the narrative, you don't have 3 individual episodes all right next to each other, right? That doesn't work, right?
Yep.
So you do something a bit more intensive. Now, in a lot of cases, I can see where that could work wonderfully.
Yeah.
And given the fact that you have like Zuko and Iroh also doing their own thing, you could kind of do 2 episodes in one if you wanted to.
Exactly.
Where like they have their own journey.
They have their story, and they keep bouncing in and out with Team Avatar's group. Yeah,
right.
that's like, totally how they're going to do it.
That can definitely work. I feel like that's actually maybe one of the things about the waterbending scroll specifically that I really liked was the idea that it felt like each of them was getting their own lessons, right? And maybe they're relevant, maybe they're not, but...
You can't fit book 1 into a couple hours. It doesn't work at all. I totally agree. So the next topic that needs to be brought up that we very, very much agreed on, and this is something that has multiple elements to it, pun intended.
Yep.
Is that we need to hire the appropriate actors for this role, for these roles.
Yeah.
And primarily the kids. I'll be completely honest with you. The main adult that actually I care about how they're, actually cast is Iroh.
Oh yeah.
And that's it.
Straight up, hands down, no contest. Like,
this is I think everyone's biggest exactly. Triple Six. Yeah. This is everyone's biggest worry, at least in their top 3.
because we're still traumatized by that Iroh from the Airbender movie.
Well, Iroh wasn't even the worst part. It got way worse with Sokka. It got way worse with Gong.
Right, but at least for them, it's like they're kids, right? So how can you expect too much?
Yeah. So this is the part that's very, very tricky here. If you're going to hire the appropriate actors for this thing here, the first thing, I know there are a lot of people that are, I would say, rightly worried about the representation angle here. That is very important. But the first things first is that you need to actually hire kids. There are some unfounded rumors. Now remember, these are unfounded. There are some unfounded rumors out there that they're going to dramatically age up the characters. This is all hearsay and nonsense. There is no definitive basis in reality for this. But I'll tell you that I think it's probably going to happen. I think they're probably going to be aged up each about 2 years, maybe 1 or 2.
And 2 years, I'm fine with. Like I get that, right? Because it is live action and everything. But whatever age you have the characters be supposed to be, have the actors be as close to that age as you can.
But the reason why particularly this is important that they age them up a little bit is because they're naturally going to age over the production of the show. Just look at Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Bran,
Bran super aged into a full-blown adult over the course of 15 months of actual showtime.
It's easy to forget, especially if you haven't read the books in the first place, but Bran was supposed to be 7 years old at the start of the series.
John was supposed to be 13 or something.
John was supposed to be 14 and then 14. And then Rob was supposed to be 15. Right, and they only grow a couple years over the course of the whole series.
But didn't exactly. I just want to bring up something because the Game of Thrones books were not a visual medium. Most people didn't care as much about the aged up thing. A lot of book people did. I'll just tell you, a lot of book people did. But the fact that the acting was good enough, and in fact, actually, the directing, acting, and just the overall flow of it was actually really good. People got over it.
Yeah.
But here's the other part. You need to make sure that these people can act and represent their specific actual tribe that they're from. Because of how much this show has to do with the idea that the world is splintered and out of balance, we need to see actually the fact of how it's out of balance. If you're going to have, an Inuit tribe, Inuit-inspired tribe of waterbenders out there where the grandma, is the only one that looks Inuit.
Right.
That kind of has a little bit of a problem there when you then have Sokka be this pale white, just dumb,
also,
potato bread kind of looking bastard.
And that whole thing aside, right? The comedy needs to be there, right? Because oh my God, the movie was so goddamn dry. Like, even if it was a bad movie, even if it had bad acting or whatever, at least make it fun.
Yeah, we'll get into the atmosphere of one of the later points. But yeah, the other thing that I'd say our fourth point here with regards to the actors, and this is important.
Oh, yes.
Because of something that I think Shyamalan didn't really foresee. And this is something that's rather tricky, because I want to give props to the movie for actually making waterbending, as far as the effects, look pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to give him props for that. The problem is not the effects. It's the actors being forced to be martial artists when only maybe one of them, Aang specifically in this case, was a martial artist with actual legit training.
And you could see how great the acting side of that dynamic went.
Which was something that I feel like maybe could have been helped if you primarily had the action scenes of that regard being more based around stunt doubles.
Yeah.
And this is something that I feel like is a hard thing we're going to lose, and we're going to have to be okay with it. Because if the effects are good enough, I think we're going to be okay with it. And that is that hiring the actors to be actors first, and then getting the stunt doubles to be the martial artists who will then do the Bagua, the Tai Chi, the Northern Shaolin, and the Praying Mantis style and all that good stuff.
And you can still theoretically have the actors do like specific bits, right? Where it's like they're doing a very iconic sort of, you know, bending moment.
Totally. You can have the Aang actor practice getting the air ball just perfectly.
But then maybe just for the crazy intense fights like we got in Batu of the Water Tribe where Zuko and Aang are going around like crazy, then maybe just, you know, get stunt doubles.
Right. And this is something that's going to be, I would say, much easier than we'd think because of how good CGI stuff has gotten.
Sure.
And that they'll make them look like that stuff as well. Biggest problem with the movie bending is most everything was so slow.
Yes.
That is the next thing of the point that we're going to bring up. Point number 5. Directly impactful bending. And this is something I think needs to be worked on. Because this is Shyamalan's creative decision that I don't think works here. And it was because I think he wanted to avoid this problem. Firebending needs to be dangerous.
Right.
And this is something that I don't think is sacrificing any creative or soul integrity of the show. Specifically that Nickelodeon was what kept things from being violent. Mike and Brian definitely wanted this to be a kids show with a light, fun-hearted, you know, good, you know, natured thing. But firebending, I think, has a great opportunity to be scary.
Oh, yeah.
If you allow fire to work like fire.
Exactly.
In the actual thing.
Yeah. As funny as it is, and we sort of laugh at it when in the show, someone shoots a fireball at somebody and then they put their arms up and get knocked back, right? That's not how it actually happened.
That's not how it works.
As much as the Jet episode had a bunch of issues, can you imagine how chilling that would be if when Jet's telling his backstory, it's not just that there are a bunch of burning buildings, but he's hearing the screams of his family as they're roasted alive? Like, that... Now, that is a definite tonal shift from the original series, but then if you still keep that sort of fun with the main cast, then there's a reason for that fun, because this world is a scary place, right? These firebenders are killing people, and then Zuko, that firebender,
he's learning that.
He's learning that, but it's also the thing of like with Katara of being like, I can only see the Fire Nation in you. Of course you would.
Right.
Of course you would. How would you not? Right? That'll make it even more complicated.
Yeah. We got some bits coming in here from Ian Waffles. In the same way, there's a nostalgia for episodic storytelling. I think we've gone a bit far in the other direction. Is there really anything wrong with just having a funny episode of Avatar or a cool horror episode? Regardless if they come back later, enjoyable is just enjoyable, right? Why do we now seem to find everything being connected inherently better? So I would say that you're right. But the reason I would say that most of those episodic stories came about was because they weren't currently like trying that hard to make the stories be linearly connected. You can tell because when they were then trying to focus on the plot specifically, they would make the episodes tie in together. And classic television shows like this is like Stargate. Remember the first series of Stargate, how much episodic stuff there was? And the whole premise lended itself to it. But I mean, it got really goofy because that show went on for 200 episodes or so. So that makes sense. But if you have a narrative with a defined beginning, middle, end, and everything like that, it's very easy to find the points where you put those slice of life elements in there without having to make it an entire episode. This is, in my opinion, what makes something like The Dragon Prince so good when what's currently coming out of Netflix is... animation, you know, kind of anime light department with Aaron Ehas, is they've got plenty of slice of life things just happening in episodes while there's Viren stuff going on in the general background.
Sure.
While Claudia and Soren are going after their whole thing there. While the elves are dealing with this thing here. It's something where you don't have to make the entire thing. It's not binary, is my point. So, in having it be, episodes like Tales of Ba Sing Se, that was something that I feel like was put in there to fill an episode slot, and they allowed like kids of the actual creators to write the episodes. Like, they didn't do the storyboarding literally and everything.
Sure.
But the Zuko Goes on a Date was written by one of the creator's daughters as just a fun little bit of fanfic, and it was created into a thing there. That's a wonderful, adorable thing.
And we will all remember Iroh's story.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean necessarily that it has place, just being honest here, in a modern, well-crafted, big-budget AAA television show. So...
yeah.
What did you say?
Oh, and we all remember Iroh's story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That Caleb face that Jacob talked about people being burned alive. Did I go yeah or something?
Or maybe you were like, oh,
yeah.
I don't know. But there are things about the show that will be different from the original series, right? You can't get around that.
Yeah.
But you can I feel like there's a balance where you can embrace. Well, yeah. You can embrace the new, right? While also remembering the old. Yeah. Not completely throwing it out the window.
Totally. And I think that the cast will be large enough that slice of life elements are necessary in order to actually have character development and characterization given. This show shouldn't do the thing that the movie did and just assume we know everything about these characters and just show highlight reels of everything.
What was it? Katara didn't even figure out Aang's name until 30 minutes into the episode, the movie.
Oh, God. So this directly impactful bending is another thing that I feel like with regards to the martial arts, we maybe have romanticized a little bit. Next time you go and watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, go back and see how many attacks are just a punch or a kick. It's not some 3-step move necessarily.
But I actually think that worked. Because, yes, in the more complicated ones, you can see how it's a different, style to it,
Wait, what are you talking about? What
in the original series?
So I'm saying that in Shyamalan he tried to have 5 moves for one thing. I'm saying directly impactful, meaning one move equals a fire blast. That's what I'm saying. Yes. And you're agreeing with me.
Yep.
Okay. I think you didn't know what my statement was, so you started disagreeing with something where I was like, oh no, we agree on each other here. Okay. Next point that we wanted to bring up is slightly adjusting the lessons learned in those mini kind of episodic stories to having more dramatic consequences. Now, this is one that I brought up as being this story is probably going to get a little bit more focus on some of the darker points, but actually having consequences that were shown in the actual, show, the original show, but just having them be something that's dialed up a little bit.
Sure.
So, an example of something like the Northern Air Temple. Now these kids have to kill Fire Nation soldiers. Rather than them tossing slime bombs on them and none of them ever get hurt ever. Maybe...
Yep.
Maybe, unfortunately, Johnny doesn't come back.
Right.
We never found him.
Maybe not all of the characters at the Northern Air Temple are necessarily kids. Maybe there are some some more adults or teenagers there too.
Right.
But a lot of them die.
Yeah, Jet actually dying. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, Jet actually dying, and also maybe him actually killing people. Not just
right in his original episode.
Right, not just hitting someone's cane out from under them and saying you're a terrible person, the Fire Nation is awful, right?
But that can be a big part of actually Aang's moral dilemma that you brought up. Is he's the one person that takes special care not to kill everyone. This was one of the things that I thought they had a little bit of trouble handling with the book 1 finale, and they brushed it over after one episode. Well, no, they didn't. They brought it up later.
Right.
But it wasn't just the premiere of book 2.
Right.
But the idea of Aang not killing people being very intentional. And Sokka brings up in book 3, he chops off Melon Lord's head.
Yep.
We had never seen Sokka the killer before this. What if Sokka was just the person who was you touch my sister, I'm gonna kill you? What?
Hold on now, that's what he said in the movie, that I'd kill them.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
But this could be basically the part of them struggling to hold on to their innocence as children, and Aang is that force of that. He is what gives them the hope that they could actually be able to find hope in the midst of all this chaos and craziness.
That's why he's the Avatar, because he's the one who doesn't remember the war. They've all grown up in this war of horrors and things like that.
Yeah.
He was in an iceberg for all of it.
Right.
So all he remembers is playing with monks and lemurs and things like that.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I think I have pretty much got a really, really simple but kind of interesting take they can do on Zuko's scar.
Oh, yeah?
Is when he actually ends up in the Agni Kai with his father, and he's like, "Father, I spoke out of turn. I'm so sorry." And he's like, "You will fight for your honor." And he starts stalking up to him like a predator, right?
Oh yeah,
it's terrifying. But in the animated version, it cuts to Iroh and he goes, "I looked away." And I love that you can hear Zuko screaming in the background, but you see Azula next to Iroh and you see Zhao there, and it's like, oh cool, that's a little bit there. But one of the ways that you could make this be a thing that's a little bit more personal, and I think it might be something that could just show you, like maybe they keep the show a little bit lighthearted up until this point, is that Ozai full on like slaps him, and it's a fire enhanced slap. Like,
okay.
I'm getting a little bit like detailed here, but
right.
my emphasis is based on the point that this is something that people can't really translate necessarily perfectly. I burned my son. Like no one like throws. I don't know. Maybe the fantastical element, but making it a little bit more real. Just like, just full on like hit his kid.
Well, yeah. If it was going to be something like that, the way I would want it to be is that like he grabs his face and just burns him. Like,
okay, yeah.
Like,
either way, I just think it being a little bit more
where we see
where
kind
we
of
actually
the
like
actual like thing happening.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like that would be one of the ways that it would be dangerously close to the edgy stuff without going too far. That's I would say the comfortable levels of edginess that I would.
Gotcha.
I would expect.
Well, what I thought you were going to say is that make Zuko's scar more prominent. Because, like, in the movie, the movie.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even see the scar a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't even tell he had it. Like, that doesn't look like he got burned. That looks like he got punched sometime. Like, like, let's actually, and choose what degree, the scar is there and, how much space it covers and things like that. But have it actually look like a burn scar. Have it be visibly unnerving to look at, right?
Right.
Where then, yes, he is the reminder of the Fire Nation and what they do,
Yeah, and then you can have him walking around in shame being something that makes a little bit more sense with the visual acting, storytelling. And
sure. Yeah.
I think you're right on the money there with that. This is the thing that I think naturally kind of flows from that point, and it's a little bit more just of the same thing. But the air nomads were wiped out. We had extermination in our kids' show, a full-on genocide.
Yep.
We had a lot of people that died that they constantly. We didn't see them die. We didn't see them die. Mm-hmm. The Fire Nation is comically evil at points. And when I say comically evil, it's like we're going to take away your candy, little kids.
Right.
And it's like, we hate them because they're keeping our main characters from being able to have their adventure.
Okay.
But it isn't really until the storm that we find out, kind of how. Well, really, no. The Southern Air Temple. It's pretty quick, actually.
That's true.
That's the they wiped out the air nomads. And then the storm with Ozai did this to Zuko, but like have the Fire Nation actually be killing people and letting their fire, their element, go out of control. Have that be a huge theme of it. Really lean into the whole war brings about chaos and throws the world out of balance.
Well, and that also brings up because one of the sort of lessons in the show that I really loved was God, I forget his name. The Firebending Master episode.
Zhong. I love that episode.
That was wonderful because it's something where because, Aang's the Avatar, right? But he had been constantly sort of been like, yeah, I'm going to have fun. I'm the Avatar, whatever. See this, And then it's like, oh no, I actually need to master these powers. And they kind of terrify me. And oh God, that's what they can do to people I care about.
Right.
I'm not sure if I want this.
Yep.
You take that into live action, where like people are actually getting, you know, burned and things like that, oh god, like that will definitely have a great impact on Aang as a character and just the atmosphere of the show. Like if it had that kind of effect on people in the animated series, imagine what it would be like in the live action.
Yeah,
it'd just all be dialed up in a potentially wonderful way. It could be too much.
Yeah, I was wanting to check to see which writer was involved on the Zhang episode, and it's Timothy Hedrick. Yeah. Timothy Hedrick was one of the other, I would say, main writers on the show, other than Aaron Ehas and Aaron's wife. I keep forgetting her name, but Tim Hedrick did a lot of the episodes that I would say are like the episodic episodes that just ended up hitting really well. Elizabeth Welch, thank you for that. Yeah, and a lot of the things that he would tackle are primarily the ones where the adults would be more involved, specifically. Okay, and I think that that's one of the things that is important with regards to death specifically, is that if you're going to have people die and you don't want it to go really dark, like don't kill kids. Like I think you can get away with doing that because the show doesn't really kill off any of the kid characters except Jet, and he's kind of older, in some ways, even though he's kind of stunted also. Have a lot of the adults be basically the ones that are dying, so they have to pass on in a lot of ways the whole, you know, hope for this world onto the younger generation of being like, we screwed it up and we need your help. Like it's something that I think thematic wise will fit really well. And if you have characters like Zhang in the mix, if you don't use him in the exact way they use him in the animated series, which I think was structurally as an episode, I think it was one of the weaker episodes. Sure.
Yeah, but like the role that Zhang played, awesome, yes. Right? The lesson is great. The episode as a whole definitely could have been better.
Right. Like the whole thing with Aang learning firebending, Katara getting hurt, the healing stuff, Zhao being his former apprentice, Aang learning the lesson about, you know, self-control. And I think all that's wonderful. I just think a lot of the other stuff could have been, you know, changed a little bit. But that's the thing that I wanted to bring up, this kind of my point about the vanilla adaptation bit, is while keeping, I would say you're right, the plot should be a vanilla adaptation, like 99% of it, or as much as you can. Please, Netflix, please.
Vanilla is good. It's not something to be avoided.
Exactly. But if you're going to bring in moose tracks, you're going to bring in some chocolate and some awkward shapes and stuff like that into ways that are, you know, tasty and, you know, sometimes needed to spice things up a little bit, have the actual things that restrain you not be the structure of the show, but more the plot of the show. And this is, I think, that's something that's really important, is that we don't need a constant bit of, you know, references and, you know, specific things there. We need the actual story to be delivered, but the way it's delivered can be different. So just allowing yourself a little bit of freedom with that there. If they're going to change around anything, please don't change the character dynamics. Or maybe they'll deepen them and then change some of them. Because I think the main ones will be the same.
Yeah, I think the main ones will be the same.
Zuko.
Yeah, they kind of have to be the same, even though it's like the difference between like a traditional vanilla bean versus French vanilla or something like that, right? Like sure. you can have some variation while still having it be like basically the same thing, because the actors are going to have their own way of doing things, right? Even if the script were the same, right? It would still come across slightly differently.
Yeah.
And as it goes on, that will sort of dictate different things, so that maybe the episodes that do need to happen, like the Storm or Zuko Alone or things like that, they might hit a little bit differently because the journey that we've had with these specific versions of the characters up till now has been different.
Yeah. Great point with Toph, for sure. She definitely needed a little bit more, just a little bit more. But that actually is something that brings up, I actually skipped over a point here. And that was that if they're going to add anything new, write some original humor based around the banter of the characters, not simply referencing moments from the show. This is something that I desperately need. One of the things that I don't think you can do in live action compared to animation is use the same kind of facial reactions of sorts to silly things that happen. Also, people doing silly things in live action, because of the speed at which they'll move and stuff, it also doesn't work exactly the same.
Nope.
So have it be like Toph making like 6 stupid puns at point.
Oh yeah.
That are like,
yeah,
there it is, you know?
Right.
And then instead of it being like, that's what it'll look like when one of you spots it, she doesn't say that. She just kind of looks at them and goes, and then like, like you can edit the humor and base it more around the character interactions themselves. Like, I think Sokka is going to be the one that they'll need to actually write new jokes for.
Yes.
Like, quite a few.
I agree. But I think that can totally work because, like, okay. In the series, it worked really well because the environment was funny and they were funny, right?
Yes.
The characters.
Right.
In this, if the environment isn't funny, but the characters are still trying to be funny, right? That'll make there seem to be a purpose for it. So it's not just randomly inserted for laughs, even though that is kind of what it is for.
In Avatar, yeah. True.
And then, you know, have it be that goofy banter between Aang and Sokka where it's the no, it's more like woo.
Yeah. Spirit magic doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can still have things like that. You just might not be able to have all the
sound
airbending slice, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that joke might not work.
Right. You can't shoot this necessarily like a mockumentary where you zoom in on Katara's face as she Jim Halperts at the camera or something. Like, you're gonna have to find a unique style of directing and shooting it in order to make the comedy actually come through. Secret Tunnel, I'm not gonna lie, might actually be cringy if you had it delivered in such a way that it just didn't work. I would say that if you can't find someone that can sell Secret Tunnel in a good enough way, it actually might be good to come up with a different set of lyrics for the song, maybe. You could have it be called Secret Tunnel, but you could have it be a song where he's never actually fully singing it. He's like, see, I've got this song, but I'm feeling all inspired.
Oh, yeah. No, wait.
Like, Secret Tunnel and something.
Right, yeah.
Like, you could really just completely change it. Yeah.
Just baked like an apple pie, and it's just like, this is how I got it. And then it gives some line, and it's like,
no, that's not it. And then a wolf bat comes in, nearly like grabs his ukulele thing, or whatever, and he's like, oh god, badger mole's coming towards me. Come on, guys, help me out. And he's like, oh man, inspiration, badger moles, badger moles.
Oh god,
like there's a lot of ways that you can have the humor be based around the dynamics of these characters bantering and in some ways doing what Sokka did best, which was complaining, just reacting to the things happening around them.
That's true.
And that's not a hard way, I would say, to write in, I would say by and large. Just having the characters to react to the crazy things around them in ways that they're either like, oh yeah, that's expected or something, or just kind of, this is the other thing, allowing them to visually act without dialogue. This is something that you can't do all the time with animation.
Nope. It's a lot harder.
Yeah. Like, it works a lot of the times, like Sokka just face palming. And like, what's wrong with your face, your forehead? And you're just like, oh.
I would love to get something that's not Jim Halpert stare at the camera, but a close equivalent where it's just Sokka, like, looking through the bag and just realizing that there's no food. Okay. All right, here we go.
Like maybe a wistful song like track that plays, and he just looks out into the sky, and he's like, why? Or even just a thing of him looking at Appa and just like in the background him like and it's like no, and Appa just kind of turns and looks at him like, the fuck, man, what did you just do?
or like he finally sees Momo and he's like, I'll cook you. Yeah, sure.
I knew it was only a matter of time. Sokka ate Momo.
Yeah. Okay, anyway. Cactus juice. Do you think cactus juice can work in live action?
No, not really. Oh wait, no, it can.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be the same way at all.
Right.
It's not going to be the montage of him doing like specific things or what have you.
But you can just get it to where it's just like, whoa.
yeah, I think you could definitely make that work. Okay. And then this is the point that we kind of had a little bit of mishmashing our opinions on this and stuff as well. And we've mentioned this throughout the discussion here, and that is if you age the characters a few years at all, if you do any changing of the characters in terms of their characterization, in terms of their age, in terms of their, design, anything like that, if you remove a little bit of the vanilla at all, keep the focus on their fun adventure contrasted by the heavy atmosphere surrounding them.
Right. Because even if they're like, okay, yes, a 12-year-old as a main character might be an issue, right?
Right.
But the thing is that, okay, even if Aang was 14, right, but he didn't grow up in a time of war, he'd still be Aang, right? Yeah. He'd still be goofy, he'd still be wacky, he wouldn't be taking things seriously, he'd be wanting to just have fun, and that would still work.
Right.
So, yeah, there you go.
Please, Netflix, please.
We've taken too much suffering as it is.
Yeah. All right. And then this is the last point that we've mentioned quite a bit, but this one, Jacob, I appreciate that you've been championing this one. Hit him with it.
Slice of life.
We need
more. Like that is the best thing that this series can do, right? It can give us more time with these characters. And since the episodes are probably going to be 45 minutes to an hour, we
could get more just overall screen time.
Yep,
more with Zuko and Iroh.
Exactly, we can have
Toph
more
and
things.
Sokka.
Oh yeah,
Katara and Aang training.
Right,
there's all these kinds of things. We could just have a little bit of bits here.
Exactly, because while the plot for each episode, whether it's linear or episodic or whatever, will probably have more time spent on it because you're not going to just have 3 individual episodes all within one segment, right?
Yep.
Then that's a lot more time for the breather moments. Those breather moments with these characters that we love so much and hopefully will love in this medium as well, right? And then we can get all kinds of moments that we never would have even thought of, right?
Yeah.
Like Iroh in the bath, right? That's something where, yes, it did have a plot relevant sort of a thing to that specific episode, but it was also just a wonderful scene, right? Yeah. And I love it. And if we can get more of those, not all of them have to be gold, but I'm sure there will be a few, then wonderful.
Shenanigans in Iroh's tea shop.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just tell you, that's already a thing in the animated show. That's literally the Tales of Ba Sing Se episode with Zuko. It's just literally, girl keeps coming into shop to try and ask out Zuko on a date.
Sure.
And then Iroh says for him, yes, he'd love to.
Right.
And then Zuko looks at Iroh like, I'm going to kill you. And Iroh's like, I don't care. Yeah, I can firebend better than you.
also, that's right, sir. This crazy kid attacked the finest tea maker in the city.
Oh, that's very sweet. Yeah.
You can still have stuff like that. And I would even say, there is potential for it to work even better than it did in the original show.
Sure.
Because you can, imagine for Iroh's story, right? Yeah, maybe he helps the guy that mugs him and we have leaves from the vine and everything, but maybe it just shows him waking up, stretching, he goes over, and he starts making a pot of tea.
Yeah.
And you can tell he's real invested in it. The camera's focusing on that mug with the steam coming off it and everything.
And then, Uncle! And then he's
like, right. Yeah. Like, you can totally have stuff like that, right? Like the possibilities are endless. Just set up the characters well, and these kinds of things will naturally emerge. And then you might even might blow your mind to think about this concept, but you might have people actually saying, I'm glad that this live action adaptation was made.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be a thing? Wouldn't that be just wonderful?
It would be wonderful. I think it's a bit of wishful thinking that we'll have half of these things in here. But I think if we had to choose one of them, it's that the soul of this show is really important to a lot of us. And I think regardless of whether or not this live action adaptation turns out being like one that the majority of fans appreciate, I think it's the pain that we all know we're probably going to watch it anyway.
Yep.
Because we have to get more Avatar The Last Airbender content.
It's an addiction.
And thus, when we see it not living up to its potential, it's going to hurt extra.
Yep.
So I think that what we're doing here is in some ways it's a little bit risky. We're setting ourselves up for having expectations that probably aren't going to be met. But I think weirdly enough, I was wrong about Star Wars. I'll just say that. Having watched the sequel trilogy, yes, I watched Rise of Skywalker more than once. Just having more content does not always mean it's a good thing. It doesn't.
But it can.
And because eventually we got The Mandalorian.
Exactly.
While a live action adaptation is probably going to take, if they get it to be pretty good enough to where a lot of people watch it, because let's be real, even if there's a huge mob of people online saying like, don't watch this show, please cancel it or something like that, there's going to be a good chunk of people that watch it if it's decent.
Yep, even if it's not.
And they'll probably get through, I would say, book 1. Because what they'll probably do is do 2 seasons per book. That's my guess.
Okay.
They might go 1 season per book, but I don't think so. I think they'll want to milk this for as many subscriptions as possible.
If they did,
so they'll do shorter seasons with,
Yeah. If they did 10 1-hour episodes, like full hour, I
don't
could
think
see
they
them
would
maybe
do a full hour. Netflix usually does about 50 minutes to like 45 minutes.
Oh, it's not usually like, for some reason I always thought with like Daredevil and things like that it was like really close to an hour because they didn't have to worry about commercials or anything.
Daredevil is not consistent in that regard.
Okay.
They can go that high.
Gotcha.
But they usually don't.
But if we got like around 10 hours of content, I think they could potentially, and like 10 episodes,
Right.
I think they could potentially do a season in one, like season for season.
Yeah, I agree because it's 8 hours for, an episode of Avatar. It's even less actually.
22 minutes, 23 minutes times 20
times 20.
Yeah.
So no, it's a little bit over 8 hours.
Okay.
It's a little bit over 8 hours, yeah. Oh, wait, no. It's a lot more than 8 hours. Am I just unable to count here? Because that would be 18 episodes.
It's usually 3 episodes to the hour, about. Oh, right.
No, it's
yeah, okay,
more. So it's 9 hours.
So it's
9 hours.
Yeah, about 9 hours, yeah.
So it's about 9 hours. But, marketing-wise, they would probably want it to be all in one go.
But then that's like that.
But that means they were almost guaranteed to give us book 2, and this is the reason why I think we need to think about this here a little bit, guys. Is that even if book 1 I would say is an underachievement for the most part, I think there will be so much just general potential excitement about it just because it's more Avatar stuff. Even if it looks like just average.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't excited about certain things getting adapted a certain way, like maybe they cast Zuko and the whole internet riots. I think that could definitely happen.
Sure.
They could end up getting so much out of this that they get a book 2. I think it's really important for us as fans to give that immediate, direct, and simple feedback that they can then process, because this is something that can happen. You could end up with a less than average book 1 and get an actually above average book 2.
Right.
This can happen.
And by the way, less than average, I would say, is still kind of a win.
Yes, because it'll be like 5 times as good as the Shyamalan movie.
Yep. And that opens the door for potentially more things to happen. So even if it's not as good as the original series, because it can't be. But if it's fun, if it's, enjoyable, right? Then let's support the hell out of it so that way we can get more of it, because, if it has a rough start, it might not necessarily have a rough finish.
Yeah. TreasureCon, I think that's unrealistic. Neither of those things are going to happen.
What?
The show is not going to be a complete dumpster fire or an absolute masterpiece. I think that's just trying to shoot the moon in hearts. It's something that doesn't work just on average a lot. A lot of things have to go right or really wrong in order for that to happen. I think that the reason why I would say you're right, maybe, is because the Shyamalan movie exists.
Yes, that is very true.
And they spent $150 million on that movie.
Yep.
Which is astounding.
Uh-huh.
I know where a lot of it went, to the visual effects,
Right, which were good.
But yeah, I think what'll happen is that if anything, it will be a more mediocre or average kind of show. And to be fair, to a lot of people who didn't watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, like, because a lot of people didn't watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, fantasy shows in general suck.
Yeah, they really do. That's why not a high bar to beat.
That's why everyone freaked out about Game of Thrones. Is that it was a far and above beyond great fantasy show right out the gate.
Right.
It got, the way it got eventually. But then you have things that came out rather recently, like the Witcher series.
Yeah.
That one, I've heard, has some serious flaws. It's not nearly as good as it could have been. And that's because of just janky choices and stuff with the story. And that stuff I'm more keeping vague right now because Jacob,
for my sake,
Jacob doesn't know Witcher lore. It. But people gobbled that up because it had a lot of things that it did right.
And one hell of a good song.
Yes, but one of the things it got right, for an example with live action things here, casting choices aside, it got character dynamics not necessarily one-to-one with the original, material, but it got them down. Jaskier and Geralt.
Yeah?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is good, fun stuff. So, yeah.
The Rock is the boulder.
The Rock is the boulder. I mean, well, that's what he was a reference to.
Yeah. So,
do you know what the boulder is cooking? You may be big, but you ain't bad. The boulder's gonna win this in a landslide. Oh my God, yes. Has there ever been a good live-action Netflix adaptation of an animated series?
Hey, I can dream, can't I?
Well, hold on. Has Netflix adapted anything superhero related? Because technically it's not Netflix always doing it. Sometimes it's just Netflix hosting a thing there. But this is the thing that I think is I would say
Daredevil
no.
could work.
I would say no. But this is one of the things that I think is tricky about this, is that we lived in a world 20 years ago where there were no really good superhero movies other than Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Like what was the good superhero movie 20 years ago? Like, this is a very... I'm not trying to convince you guys that this means that they can do anime or cartoon adaptations correctly. I'm just saying that there are mediums by which The Incredibles was actually 2003, so it was,
and even then,
it was in the age of the superhero stuff coming back.
It wasn't even live action, so
the original X-Men, I would posit to you, we tolerated because it was the only other thing we had.
Right. Yeah.
The X-Men 2 movie, which a lot of people would say was
X-Men 2 is probably the best one.
Yeah. I agree. At that time, I really like X-Men First Class personally, but X-Men 2 has some really janky, cheesy, corny, would not work in this era kind of things.
Oh, absolutely.
And I gotta say, there were bad Lord of the Rings adaptations.
We don't need to talk about those.
We just forget about those.
We don't need to talk about those.
But
that can stay out of this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there were bad Batman adaptations too. Yeah. There are a lot of really janky, dumb Batman movies.
Do we need to dwell on these things?
No. But I'm bringing up the point that we are learning things. Not we, us specifically, but with making fictional superhero type character stories and stuff, we're getting a lot better. And yeah, Netflix doesn't have a great track record. Yeah. So color me cautiously optimistic, and probably unwarranted optimism, because there's nothing really to say for it.
If we don't have hope, then what do we have?
We hope is all we have.
Go of it until our dying breath. If we get, I'm just gonna say this.
Oh my god.
If / when, because if this goes to covering book 3, we are getting a play. We are getting a play. And if / when that happens, oh my god, I'm going to love it. Because I don't think there's any way you can ruin that, even in live action.
Sure.
Oh my god.
Sure.
That could be just amazing.
I gotta say, the thing that would be the best about it, primarily, is they could legitimately mock the Shyamalan movie.
Oh, I know.
Guys.
I mean,
guys.
Bryke was mocking it before it even happened.
Yeah, he was a prophet. But think about it. What if in the live action, world line where it actually gets to book 3, and then they're going to make the what is it called, the Ember Island Players episode? Yeah. And then they make fun of the Shyamalan movie, just lightly, just a little bit, That would be.
Call him Ong.
That would be one of the most genius things, because it doesn't make sense, a lot of the things that they do in that, if you don't have the Great Divide episode. If you just change the story a decent amount.
Yeah, they'll need to reference their own things, and they can even reference how maybe some of the fans were like, oh god, a live action series,
Or just having them basically bump into the Fire Nation, having this really meta episode where they're like, oh, Fire Nation really has, a weird thing with their throats or something, so I guess Aang is a little bit harsh to say, so they're calling him Ong?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that play was terrible, but the effects were decent.
Oh god.
Or have Sokka be completely lifeless. Yeah, there's so many things that they could do. And this leads me to my thing about why I'm cautiously optimistic. When Mike and Brian left, they wrote a bunch of things to the fans to be like, hey, yeah, this isn't going to go necessarily to the way we wanted it to go, but it could still end up being pretty good. So, they were basically telling us specifically, and they mentioned this, in that there are people that they hired to be a part of this project that are still involved.
Yes.
Those people who were brought in by Mike and Brian because they feel like they're going to do a good job at bringing their vision to life, Netflix will probably end up using them.
Yeah, probably.
Because either they have to because of contract, or...
Right, the machine's already moving kind of thing. Yeah,
it's because we got to get this moving as fast as possible, right? So there's a possibility, guys, that it might not be the best, masterpiece kind of thing there. But what it could be is that, there's a different showrunner that pushes more their specific view of things to try and reach a specific audience. But there also could be those little moments where we get, hello, Zuko here, but I guess you already know that, talking to a turtle. Well, what's your answer? And just, we can get
Zuko, you must look within yourself to save yourself from your other self. Only then will your true self reveal itself. Yeah, that could happen.
Yeah.
Also, yes, that is a great point. If they do Ember Island Players in live action, the best way to shit on the movie would just to have 6 earthbenders with the one rock going past with obvious stage cables or something. Oh yeah.
Oh my god. I would say, though, that actually if they did the live action, you'd probably have to say goodbye to the Ember Island Players, because it was primarily a thing there because of the way Nickelodeon did their production, and they wanted the kids to be aware of what the story had been up until this point in case they were tuning in just that day for the first time. And then Mike and Brian were like, fine, if you want to make us do a recap episode, then
we'll do it proper.
We get the full budget for everything there. We're going to do actual original animation, everything there. So, yeah.
Oh, man.
Which will be worse, Avatar Last Airbender live action or One Piece live action? Honestly, guys, I think the One Piece live action is going to be worse.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very easy, in my opinion, to know why. You cannot replicate that art style.
Nope.
In the slightest.
Nope. Just doesn't work.
There are no human proportions or anything. The most normal looking of all the characters is Zoro.
Yeah.
And
that's
it.
Yeah, Zoro would probably be pretty cool.
And yeah, maybe
Nami.
Maybe Nami, and then what's his name?
Yeah, Usopp's nose.
Skeleton boy. What's his name? Brooke. Yeah, Brooke.
Yeah, Brooke will look good.
Brooke will probably be a CGI character.
Yeah, but God, just
Which means
thinking
he'll
about the
probably be
idea of
okay.
Usopp's nose.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. And this is, I think, one of those things of where we're probably need to accept in some level that certain things shouldn't be adapted into live action. I really think Avatar: Last Airbender has a very good chance of being a good live action adaptation.
Oh God, yeah. As long, cryogenics, as they don't bring in D&D from Game of Thrones to direct live action. That would be something.
I actually think, to be fair, I think they would actually do a great job.
Okay.
Twist, I think that Dan and Dave actually would do a decent job.
I could see that too, because when they're not making their own content, they can do a much better job of it, because the banter between the characters, they can actually do pretty well. The plot stuff, and when the plot gets in the way of the banter between the characters, I'm looking at you, Winterfell arc, it goes badly. But when it's not that,
they have a good track record of adapting existing material. Exactly. And when the existing material started to disappear, oh no, look.
So did the quality.
Yeah. That's just tough to do. Also, I think the other thing is that Netflix would keep them on a very tight schedule. So they would actually be done in like 4 or 5 years. Like, instead of it being like a 10-year process.
Okay, just imagine everyone. If this actually goes the distance and does it pretty well, it goes through book 3, and at the end of this, through all the trust issues and things like that, we end up having another set of Avatar material that's not half bad.
Yeah, it's not great, right? But it's good in its own way.
Like, think about that. Just imagine that for a second.
I know a lot of people don't want to.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I want it to be that way too. That would be so wonderful. I remember when they first announced this and showed the Appa image with Aang on the ice and stuff like that. I was freaking out on Twitter, posting like, "Guys, I'm so excited for this. This is something where the creators are involved." And people were super skeptical. They're like, "Yeah, that would be great, but there's no way this is gonna work." And now here we are with Mike and Brian leaving the project. So I will say that right now, it can get worse. It can get much worse. But here's my prediction. If we don't see a trailer that blows our minds in about 9 months, it's going to be awful. And it's not actually going to be because of the fact that they'll put something out there that will be bad. It will be because they can't make up their minds on what they want to do.
Sure.
That's where this show, I think, is going to fall apart. But yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Hyperion, we have not seen the Haikyuu teasers, and we usually do not watch teasers for shows that have lots of like plot spoilers and stuff in it. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. We are aware that Haikyuu is coming back in October. Very excited about that. Yeah, we're not watching.
Ooh, anything about the original Avatar that you're going to love more with time? Iroh,
like,
as a whole, I feel like that's,
Yeah, but the themes, it's a pretty well-themed show for a kids Nickelodeon thing there. Yep. There are moments in the show, and it's fun watching people discover the show for the first time and be like, yo, do you see what they were doing here back in 2008? So there's this scene that is probably one of the best scenes of the whole show. One of the best. It's when Zuko confronts Ozai. And this scene gets better and better every time I rewatch it. Because on a storytelling level, it's Zuko basically cheating out the opportunity to talk to his dad without his dad firebending him, showing that he's still very much afraid of him, but he needs to say this piece. It's very much a kid confronting the parent and being like, you are not in control of me anymore.
Right. Very cathartic.
Yes, very cathartic. But the fact that Ozai is so cocky about this that he removes his guards, there's all these little things that are happening where he's like, you don't know if it's just him being cocky or him being forward thinking, being like, Zuko has some actually important information that I don't want him just spilling to my guards or anything. So there's multiple ways with how Ozai handles the situation that I love. But then when Zuko is like, oh my god, he's like,
growing up,
we were taught that the Fire Nation was the greatest civilization in history, and that the war was our way with sharing our greatness with the rest of the world. This is after Zuko has had the Avatar and the Fire Lord episode.
Right.
And then he goes, what an amazing lie with that was. The people of the world are terrified by the Fire Nation. They don't see our greatness. They hate us, and we deserve it. We've created an era of fear in the world, and if we don't want the world to destroy itself, we need to replace it with an era of peace and kindness. You could feel the creators looking at the actual world we live in and being like, kids, please hear this through our kids' show. Your parents might not like this if they listen too closely to what we're saying. But this is extremely important that you look at this world in a more holistic way. There's some really important things going on that you might just grow up into. I'm sorry, but yeah. Of course I remember the exact lines. Like, oh my god.
And then, of course, the whole
no, it's not just being
and
nice forehead. Obviously, it's more complicated than that. I'm just bringing up the point of that this is a very specific... there's a very obvious interpretation that they're making there with the creators and stuff there that you don't need to say in order to know. But it's the
some industrial empire that, starts going crazy a bit.
Well, yeah. Well, there's a bunch of things there, but my point is that kids aren't necessarily going to get hit with anything profound regarding that when they're 10 years old or 8 years old. They're not aware enough to be able to realize what's being said there, but there's certain dangers with regards to intense overt nationalistic expansion via sharing greatness and stuff. That's something that you might want to have a talk with yourself about. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Maybe you should figure that out then.
One of the other bits from Avatar that I think just gets better with time is Guru Patik's whole conversation with Aang at the end of season 2.
Yes,
That's the best finale. That's one of the best. It's just the best finale. That whole finale, I love so much.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It is actually the Empire Strikes Back of Avatar.
Right. Yeah,
all those people really are like, this is the Empire Strikes Back. It's like the people saying this is the Dark Souls of but instead it actually is. And
there were so many good life lessons talked about in those 2 episodes. Oh my god. Whether it was that or Iroh and Aang going through the tunnel or all kinds of stuff. It was just it was wonderful.
There is a lot of wisdom, I think, that the show communicated in a very simplistic way. So you are right. It can be just interpreted as just be nice, But there are some things in there that Iroh says that some of the kids even accidentally say, and they don't even realize how profound they're being. It's really edifying as an adult to go back and watch that when you just need a little bit of wholesome just goodness in your life. I've said multiple times that if you want to feel like a kid again, go watch Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, go rewatch Avatar.
You won't feel dumb
Airbender.
like a kid. You'll feel just kind of wholesome and warm like a kid.
And a lot of that you have Uncle Iroh to thank for.
A lot of that. Quite a bit. Yeah. Book 2's finale is Avatar's peak, in my opinion, even better than Book 3. I am one of those.
I can see that.
I'm one of those people, that is a Book 2 over Book 3 kind of people as well. So,
Blind Bandit and Zuko alone. I'm really excited to see how they do that in live action.
Lake Laogai.
Yeah.
Bitter Work. The desert.
Yeah.
Even in some ways the Avatar State episode in the very beginning.
Yep. Yep. That's some heavy stuff to cover because he didn't just pick up the water and set it back down. He killed people. A lot of people.
Yep.
And that's something that would be interesting to see how Aang comes to terms with that.
Zuko alone, you mentioned that one already, but even the chase.
Sure. Yeah.
Tales of, Ba Sing Se.
That's just that. Yeah.
Appa's lost days.
Oh God, yeah, with amazing live action or like CG and stuff like that for Appa to just make it be as heartrending as possible. Oh my God.
Appa's Lost Days in live action could be brutal.
It could be really brutal.
That could be that could be so painful.
That firebender was using a whip of fire. Just saying.
You know what actually could be really cool if they could bring back from the cartoon and keep it the same? Is bring back the voice guy for all the animals.
Oh, D. Bradley Baker?
Bring back D. Bradley Baker.
Yes.
As
Absolutely.
Appa's voice and Momo's voice and all the animals and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Like, that would be
so wonderful.
Okay. Netflix people, you're not watching this. There's no way you are.
There's no way.
If people want to clip this and send this to Netflix, this would be cool. But if you want to ever get the goodwill of the Avatar fan base really cheaply, like you don't have to really...
It's not hard.
It's not hard. Just bring D. Bradley Baker back as either Appa, Momo, both, or just the animals.
Just the animals.
Just like... Because it's something that's going to be voice acted no matter what.
Yeah.
Or you're going to use your own sound effects for it. But
God.
Why not just bring D. Bradley Baker back? And there you go. You get maybe, a bunch of people angry on Twitter and you're like, what can we pull out of our pocket?
Yep.
D. Bradley Baker, we hired him.
Exactly.
Suddenly everyone will be like, oh my God.
If I hear that one horse scream that was used for like the cave trolls in like Lord of the Rings stuff and whatnot,
oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
Like that soundbite that's very distinctive. I'm gonna be sad.
Did he voice Appa and Momo in the Nightmare episode? I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure he did.
Oh man.
Yeah, because those are very caricature voices. Oh, you don't like it? Well, let's go right now.
Yeah.
You've
got to take
care of yourself. You can't go on like this. And then I love the way he's just kind of just sitting there. No, I am sick of this guy mouthing off and always telling me what to do.
Okay, cabbages. Does that work in live action? If it has that slightly darker tone and everything, can we actually...
We'll feel sad for Cabbage Man. We won't laugh at him.
Yeah, right.
Cabbage Man will be like divorced and he'll be like kicked out of the house and everything. And then he'll be just trying to make his business just so he can pay rent.
And then suddenly...
And then he keeps having to move from war-torn city to war-torn city to Ba Sing Se, where eventually Ba Sing Se gets taken over. And we could have a whole thing in book 2 where the refugees are getting like... put into like resistance camps, and Cabbage Merchant is there just
as
like
a pitchfork or a hoe or something.
I'll burn them down. I'll take them all down. The Fire Nation, right? Yeah, them too. Yeah. Cabbage Man in like this economy.
I feel like Cabbage Man is a similar situation to like Tom from Tom and Jerry, right? Because when you're a kid and you watch Tom and Jerry, you're like, this is hilarious. When you're an adult, you're still like, this is hilarious. But you also realize Jerry is just a little shit.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
Like he is awful to Tom. Occasionally Tom tries to eat him, but a lot of the time Tom is minding his own business.
Yeah, Tom's just sitting there, and Jerry just comes up and
is like, hey, I've got dynamite,
nail poked, stick or something.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
Cabbage life is a sad life. I mean, it is a practically water soluble.
Yep. What kind of profit margins can you get on cabbage?
Not
much. Not much at all.
2 copper pieces.
Right.
It's not as funny the second time.
Nope.
Oh man.
Angsty Zuko though. That's one of the things I'm kind of interested to see how they do it because Zuko.
Why can't I do it? Instead of lightning, it keeps exploding in my face, like everything always does.
No, so that's a particular side of Zuko, right? And God, I hope we never get waterbending fireball.
I have heard so many people applaud that scene as like, look, he's incorporating waterbending elements.
No,
I'm like, no, that was a mistake of the animators.
They can shut their damn mouths.
And that's why, in some ways, that scene has him using the weakest firebending move he ever did and gets instantly beaten by a couple of,
The
only
thing that comes close to that in my mind is the part where Toph moves the ground underneath Azula's
yes.
feet.
That's one of the most egregious mistakes in the choreography of Avatar fights.
When this character was specifically introduced to wait and listen for the perfect moment to strike and take out their opponents, they're just gonna make their enemy trip. when the enemy didn't even know they were there.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Toph could have ended the whole fight right there, just being like, ground grabs you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just pulls you under and brings her up to her neck. And it's like that whole thing of, hey, what are you doing? Get me out of here. I have a spin class. And
we could get like an action, like we could, okay, since it's live action, if it did go darker, we could get some like Gaara type stuff where it's like, oh yeah, no, Earthbender's
Naruto, right?
Yeah, where it's just, yeah, I grab you in Earth and then I crush you. And just blood starts coming out, you know.
I always loved it when the Earthbenders dive backwards into the ground and then pop up somewhere else. To be fair, literally only Boomy did that. Like, Boomy was the only Earthbender to ever do that specific move. Yeah. And it was the coolest freaking thing when he did that.
Oh, that's right. Roku did it. Well, he's the Avatar.
To be fair, I think what Roku did was Roku just kind of like dropped.
Right. He didn't do the stylish
didn't do the
like
dive.
Yeah, like fall and like just imprint.
Like he did a full-on move with his hands as well. What Boomy did was Boomy just went like this, folded his arms, and just fell backwards.
Yeah.
He just broke the laws of bending by having there have to be some kind of martial arts, and he's just like, hey, yeah, I fell backwards.
The idea of making rock something that is very solid be not solid when you want it to be, but still very solid for other people.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's terrifying.
That's why you want to be an Earthbender.
That is absolutely why I want to be an Earthbender. But where was I?
I'm just gonna be an Airbender floating up, being like, nah, fuck all that ground nonsense. Right. I'm just gonna, we're here, you know.
But like, there is potential with this show. There are opportunities that can be taken advantage of in potentially some wonderful ways. Oh yeah, but Angsty Zuko, like season 1 Angsty Zuko, where it's that I must capture the Avatar, right? Yeah. That, you know, that might need to be done in a particular way. Get a good actor and all that stuff.
Right.
But it can still work.
Yes. My life will be calm and happy and joyful.
Yeah.
That doesn't prove anything. What are some of your favorite lines that you would just love to see in the live action one, just delivered perfectly?
Uncle, tell Commander Zhao what happened. Ah, yes, I will do that. It was incredible. What, did we crash or something? Yes, into an Earth Kingdom ship.
And then...
Really?
Then like, bubble over Zhao's head.
Yeah.
Earth Kingdom.
Doesn't have any ships. Yeah.
Earth Kingdom. Ship.
Right.
Earth Kingdom. Earth. Water.
Really? You must regale me with all the thrilling details. I'm like...
Care for a drink?
Wait.
Sorry, but we have to go. Zuko, show Commander Zhao your respect.
Do you have any
He would be honored to join you.
Yeah.
Do you have any ginseng tea? It's my favorite.
But yeah, I would love for that line to be in there.
Also, leave! Yes. That would be a great
That was
one.
an emotionally impactful moment, even if it was really funny at the same time.
That was it's more funny because of the way he delivers it so sustained. But if it went leave like just like quicker and it bit more, then I would feel that. Yes, Blind Wave definitely made that into a little bit more of a meme for sure.
What, the leave part?
Yeah, because Calvin will yell quite a few times, leave, you know, really dramatically and stuff.
Nice. Okay.
How many times did we watch this show? I lost count around 25.
Yeah. Like
21,
easily more than 15. So, okay, what if they actually just got George Takei to do the warden in the imprisoned episode? Not that the imprisoned episode will probably be there.
You will not be prisoners as much as you are honored guests. How dare you...
I'll decide what the point is, fool.
Wake up the captain. Tell him we have...
That was the captain.
And wake up someone else I haven't thrown overboard.
Which was it? A buffalo
or a bison? Yes. I'm not sure what the difference is, sir. But that's not really the point.
Also, I really want pretty much every line from Iroh to still be there. Like, you know, I'm begging you, Prince Zuko. It's time to look inward. Who are you? And what do you want? Like, that... Like, all of Iroh's conversations are just precious and amazing and wonderful, and I love them.
Yeah,
I love them so much.
Toph says you make you give good advice and make great tea. The key to both is proper aging. What's on your mind? It's like, Iroh, we do not deserve you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This is just hot leaf juice, Uncle. That's what all tea is.
How can a member of my own family say something so horrible?
Yeah.
They can really emphasize how effed up Ba Sing Se is. That's true.
I am Judy. Welcome to Ba Sing Se.
I'm Judy.
Yeah.
Welcome to Ba Sing Se. We're
Also-
so lucky to have our walls to create order. We're so lucky to have our walls to create order.
This is it. Yeah.
Yes, we mentioned the Zuko Zyro impression.
That
for
would
sure.
be absolutely fantastic. Also, okay, no. This is another one that I would love to have in there. I don't hate you. I don't hate you too.
And then nom nom nom, light face.
that line, those two lines right there. That's some high quality stuff.
You know what's funny? The beach might actually be something that's just a full-on arc. Like think about how the live action one would happen, right?
Amazing.
And they'd be like, we can really boost the sex appeal of our cast that everyone has really been like getting a lot of time with. Let's get them all in their swimming clothes, right? And then we'll be like, oh yeah, we got to have some drama between May. Yeah. We're Chan and Ranjan. Yeah. And then Azula be like, you said we're going to party until dusk, till dawn. It's dusk, so we're here. We are the perfect party guests because we are very punctual.
We will become the most powerful couple in the whole world. We shall dominate the earth.
Yeah. Careful, Chan. You could puncture an Empire-class battleship, leaving thousands to drown at sea.
Because
it's so sharp. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Thanks, yeah.
I have to go.
Azula laughing.
Yeah. Oh god. I am so excited to see the dynamic between Ty Lee and May. That is, that could be so good. It could be so good.
Wait, May's wearing makeup that's not totally depressing?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, but they would totally lean into the ship of Ty Lee and Azula, quite a bit.
Oh yeah,
because that's like something that you could even tell the writers were like, yeah, we're gonna tease that along with Zutara as well. That was another thing
because let's face it, it was like May turning on her. Yes, that made her snap a little bit. Right. It was really Ty Lee turning on her. Like, did you see that look of shock on her face? It wasn't just because she got key blocked. It was you were always the person that was like
you were in love with
my
me.
Squad. Yeah, you were in love with me. You
worshipped me.
Right. Yeah, I'm bored. I know. I'm hungry. So fetch me some food.
Sure. Yes. Watch it. That food is for my cranky girlfriend.
There's just so much.
There's so
can
much.
Be turned into a wonderful swan flying off into the sunset. Or it can be
get just shot 3 times.
Or it can be shot full of buckshot while it drops a turd. So.
Oh man. Yeah, because we're at some point in book 1 going to see a platypus bear. They're gonna have to decide how they want to do that.
Right. Yeah, the animal mashups.
And just Appa with 6 legs. That in of itself is gonna be that's gonna be a thing,
I hope Appa looks really fluffy, because I know that with the whole thing in the movie, it's all right, Appa, it would be pretty hard for him to stay clean, right?
Right.
But Appa didn't look like something I wanted to ride on. It was no. That looks
he's a 6-legged yak that flies with a beaver tail.
Exactly. No.
Azula watches Kaguya love his war, severely misunderstanding the premise and coming out very confused. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, now come back, Boomerang. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Haha, I can see what you're doing there. I don't see like you do. I release sonic waves through my mouth. Ah! Yeah. There, I got a pretty good look at you.
God.
Zuko, it's time we had to talk. About your hair. It's gone too far. Maybe it's best that we split.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
And we are never, ever, ever getting back together. Yeah. How could you say that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Ko.
Oh, they can just bring back his voice actor, too.
Uh-huh.
Yep. That's another great example. Oh, he's killing it with
Erebos?
in Dragon Prince.
Yeah, like Ko would be so terrifying, especially
If you
when
gave him like a little bit more screen time, a little bit more influence in the spirit world as well.
But also just think about it. Or animated series, seeing the faces get swapped, that was pretty creepy.
Right, but it was a blip frame. Like
Right.
It was instant, basically.
But imagine in live action, that can be all sorts of messed up, do not want, keep that thing away from me, throw salt and garlic and everything you have.
What's that cat? He's like,
or that, no.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man! All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here because we're just basically gushing about
how much we love the show
and how much we love Avatar.
And this live action show could be good. It could be good.
So, thank you all for hanging out, checking out the podcast here as we talk Avatar. We all love the show. We all are hoping for the best.
Yep.
So let's
channel our energy, unlock all the chakras.
Yep. And just be like, yes, please be good.
Yep. We do have other streams though. They're all at 3 p.m. Pacific time.
Weekdays.
Yep. Indeed.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday now.
Right, exactly. Tuesdays are the One Piece manga readings, crazy voices and things like that.
Yep.
Wednesdays and Fridays are
my Dark Souls streams, which are coming back, and I'm so excited I missed Dark Souls.
He really did. He was going through
an
actual
abusive
withdrawal.
mistress that I just can't get enough of. Like,
that is a very specific. Very specific.
Hey, I mean, you openly admitted to being a sadist like 2 years ago, dude.
No, not sadist.
Masochist.
Emotional masochist.
Emotional masochist.
Very different. Right. And then on Thursday, I do gaming, which is going to be starting Portal 2.
Portal.
Yeah. Didn't start it last week because vacation. GLaDOS is amazing. Yeah, so I'll be starting that. That'll be crazy and awesome. Apparently, it's way better than the first game.
Yeah, you heard her song, right?
Yes. Still alive.
Okay, good.
Yeah. You will be baked, and then there will be cake. Yeah.
But guys, be sure to check those out. Leave a follow or subscribe. Do you want to stay up to date with all of that? If you do subscribe with Bezos' Kun's money of Twitch Prime, if you have one of those, because that's pretty cool. You also get access to our private Discord, where you can chat with us in the community there about shows, anime, stories, what have you. So check that out.
My sci-fi novel that I wrote.
Yes, that's
somehow
right.
You are
exclamation BL in chat.
Yep, exactly. To the link to Amazon where you can purchase it. They also have like a thing where you can just like get a subscription service to like read through ebooks and things like that. It's pretty cool. But yeah, check it out. Links in chat.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys in the next one. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.
All right. Cool. Is the next podcast about Beastars? Might be now.
I mean,
that's a very good point. That might be a perfect.
God, I love Beastars.
Beastars is really good.
Beastars is wonderful and amazing. Still find it funny that you heard the baked line 3 times and still didn't think something was wrong about it. Well, I have no excuse for that.
I really hope they keep the faceless monkey that Aang saw.
Oh,
there's a couple weird things about the spirit world. There's another thing that's kind of a fun little thing in Avatar, and that's all the wolf references.
Yes.
Those are things specifically because of Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni worked on book 1 of Avatar.
Wait, really?
And made a lot of wolf references.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of like the reference to your, favorite thing. That one thing at Battle Lines.
I definitely do have lots of references in Battle Lines. Whether you're talking